everybody. Wow. My voice is not good today. Hey, jeez. I really should try to talk more during the day. I used to do that a lot, just talk to myself. Well, I guess this stream is kind of talking to myself, but I used to do that a lot, just talk to myself. But recently, within the past like a month or so, it's just not been like that. It hasn't been the greatest thing. Don't mean to start this stream off on a sour note, but one thing I definitely miss is just being able to leave my fucking house. I know there are people out there like me who are kind of like introverts and stuff, but there's a difference between um not wanting to do something and not being able to. But hey, why am I streaming and why am I just chatting? Why am I not playing Final Fantasy IX? What's wrong with you? What I am doing is I'm actually editing my last stream here so that I can post it on YouTube. The problem with my last stream is that I had a lot of blank moments where I just wasn't really talking about anything and I was trying to do other things at the same time, and it just kind of ended up being awkward. And I know last stream, if you guys saw it in any way, if you were here, we had a problem with the bot entering the chat, and I just wanted to nip that in the butt really quickly. So I did it on stream, and I went quiet while I was doing it because I don't have moderators. I'm not someone who has like a big enough following to have like moderators or anything like that. So there was that, and so I just wanted to nip that in the butt really quickly. I didn't ban them. I don't know if you can ban people. You probably can, but I don't know. I'm new to like technically I've had a Twitch account for a few years. Not this one specifically, but I had one prior for a few years. But I don't know. I don't know how it works. I mean, just the other week, I set up notifications, like, oh, sub notifications, follow notifications, raid notifications and donation notifications. The reason I only set up those four was because those are the only four that I understood. All of the others were like, I don't know what this is, I don't know what this is, I don't know what this is. Oh god, the last time I streamed, okay, apparently I don't know if this is actually a thing or if I was just being dumb. But last time I streamed, I had a very hard time like speaking, and not necessarily because I had a hard time like I didn't know what to say or anything like that. It was mostly because I think like the day prior I had a pretty long Russian test. It was 3 chapters long. I aced it. I got an A, but I had a pretty long Russian test, and so what ended up happening was that I just kind of like stumbled over my words the entire stream. And I was like, "Why is this happening?" And then I remember uh, I was learning a different language the entire part of like the prior day, the previous day. So I was like, maybe that's it. And there's Iker. This is Princess Iker. This is one of the pictures I drew of her. I don't have a lot of pictures of Princess Iker. I have one that was just her reference sheet. I have this one, which I did a speed paint for over on my YouTube channel if you guys want to go check that out. And then I have one I did fairly recently with Goretober, which is just a month-long art challenge in October that centers around gore and violence and stuff like that. Princess Iker is like she's obviously like a My Little Pony fan character, or at least a pony fan character in general. She's actually an alicorn. I didn't make her to like make any kind of like serious story with her because that's not my thing usually with fan characters. Usually with fan characters, I just make them on a whim, kind of like why not? It's fun to do those sort of things, so why not? So I just kind of think of a design, I think of the basis of a backstory, and I'm just like, it's there. There's that person. like, I remember back when Avatar: The Last Airbender first came out. I know a lot of people had this idea in this head, and there were like debates on whether the idea would actually work. But I had the idea, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool and whatnot. I envisioned that one of the avatars would be a set of twins. but not necessarily that one twin gets like two powers and the other twin gets the other two powers or whatever. Um, it was one twin would get all of the powers; they would be the actual avatar, and the other twin would be a non-bender, and it would be kind of like I kind of thought about it. Either it'd be kind of like a sibling rivalry thing, or it would be an actual rivalry thing where the Avatar had to be kind of like the good guy, and then the non-bender was kind of like resentful of them. But another thing I was always interested was the idea if there was a evil Avatar. Again, I never looked into a lot of the background lore for Avatar: The Last Airbender. I only watched the show and then I watched Legend of Korra. I didn't read any of the comics. I didn't read any of the other supplementary things that came out, so I don't actually know if there are per se like uh a story of like an evil avatar or something like that. But I always thought that might be a little bit interesting to not like I don't know if I wanted to go full evil in the sense like, oh, they could be like the Fire Lord evil where it's just kind of like this dictatorship, or if they could be like slyly evil where it's like because they have such a presence in everybody's lives and because they're revered as the avatar figure kind of thing. Because every avatar is kind of like revered in some sort of sense when once people find out that they are the avatar um, by other people, whether or not they deserve it in any sort of way. So it's like maybe they take that kind of following that they already have just by being born the way they are and try to manipulate people. I don't know. To me, it's an interesting idea, but that was just basically a tangent on another fan character idea I had. But and I never really wrote anything about it because I wasn't actually all that interested. Like sometimes when I'm in fandoms, sometimes I am very, very, very interested in writing fan characters, and sometimes I'm just not. And it's not like me writing fan characters is indicative that I liked fandom more than the other one. It just means I had an idea one day and I was like, that could work. And I just wrote it. Like I that's me. I can't stick to one thing. Like my mind is always all over the place. I can't stick to one thing ever in my life. So I'm always bringing in these like different ideas about these different peoples and these different ways of life. Like one of my favorite things to do. It's I was talking to Dee Dee about this not too long ago, like maybe the other day or something. One of my favorite things to do is world building. I absolutely adore world building. And I think the thing I adore about it is that it's just, I get to um, write more about a world that I already have. And like story building and character building and stuff like that is very, very important. But I'm always interested on the like dynamics within the world itself, like how things work between peoples, what are the new ways that people could interact. Okay, I found the picture. Okay. See, this is another example of me just not being able to stick to one thing. I was gonna put up their character references, but their character references are a little large, and I think they take up like everything. Not large, they're kind of long and wide. But this is Din and Creed. Well, actually, I should say this is Creed and Din because Creed is on the left, so he comes first, and then Din is on the right, and he's also shorter, so he comes second. I I love like height differences when it comes to not even just like romantic relationships, just relationships in general. I love having this insane dramatic height difference. Like one of the characters in Stardust, Siosuke, he's like 7 feet. And I made him that way because the angels and the demons in that story are supposed to be really fucking tall. They're supposed to be like really fucking tall. And so he's 7 feet, and his brother Chaos is around like 5'8", 5'9", somewhere around there. And so you imagine these two brothers standing next to each other. They're like they're technically stepbrothers, but still they're like standing next to each other and they have this dramatic height difference. And for Creed and Din, at least for these versions of Creed and Din, I believe I wanted Creed to be kind of like tall and not really lanky, but a little thin. And so I made him 6'4", and then for Din I was flip flopping between 5'10" and 5'11". And Din is chunky. He's a thick boy. Just because, especially if I'm gonna have the characters like always interacting, I kind of want to make them on different sides of the spectrum. And with Din and Creed, obviously, their story is supposed to be a romance story, so I just wanted to work on that while I was working on them. The basis of their story is that the story is it's just them two in the story. There are no other characters, quote unquote. And the story is called The Altars, I believe I called it. Was it? I think I called it. No, it wasn't The Altars. It was shoot, I forgot what I called it. It was something like The Altars. Something like that. I forget. I'll look it up. But their story is basically that a romance story where they each are the only characters inside of it. And so, since they're always going to be interacting, I wanted them specifically to look very different from each other. Uh, so that's why I kind of made them one's thin and tall, one's a little shorter and chunky. You know, one's got like Creed kind of has the very long hair that falls down his back, and then he has the jacket that he wears on his shoulders. He doesn't wear it up, no, not his shoulders, his elbows. He doesn't wear it up on his shoulders, is what I mean. He wears it on his elbows. You know, Din is kind of like he has a jacket that has a very, very puffy top. He's got like fur on the top of his jacket. So one of the characters kind of looks more bulkier, and even it looks little bit more thicker with all the extra layers that they add on. And Creed, on the other hand, looks more streamlined. He looks more just straight down. And so that's kind of where the inspiration for their differing designs came from. And I know I wanted to give them both horns, but I wanted them to be small horns. Not really horns. Creed doesn't really have horns. He technically has very tiny antlers that are popping out of his head. Or does he? That's a spoiler. I'm not going there. But Din has small little horns that pop out from the top of his head. Um, little pointy things, not too much. Little pointy things. And I think the reason I did that was because I'm always going over the top when I design characters. Like, I want to give them these huge horns. I want to give them this and this and this and this. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just take it back for a second and just I did call it The Altars. Why did I think I called it something else? Okay, apparently the story is called The Altars. I completely forgot that that's what I called it. But yeah, and another thing I wanted to do was I specifically wanted them to look weird, if that makes any sense at all. Here, maybe I should put up their character references just for a second. Just for a little bitty second. Not for a long time, not gonna hold them there for the entire time, just for a little bitty second. I wanted them to look weird. And not weird in a sense that, oh, they look unattractive in some way, or they look like this, or I wanted them to look weird in a sense that it wouldn't really look like characters that I would design. Number one, that might have come around because I wanted to step a little bit out of my comfort zone when it came to designing characters. But another thing I wanted to do was I wanted them to look off in a certain way when compared to all the other characters that I make, because their story is a little bit off. Okay, there's Creed and there's Din. Those are characters. I'm not gonna keep that up for the whole time because it's covering too much of the screen. But I wanted Creed to look almost a little bit sickly. Like, I don't know if you can tell or if you can zoom in any sort of way. But he has like these orange streaks going down his face, and right underneath his eyes, he has like red markings. And that was kind of me. Like, I wanted him to look sad and a little bit sickly, if that makes any sense at all. because and I wanted to change that as I worked on their story. The reason I'm talking about them so much is because I haven't actually worked on their story yet. That's a lie. I have worked on their story. I technically haven't posted anything about their story. One thing about Creed's character, I was like, what was I talking about before that? One thing about Creed's character is that he's not really all that happy with his life currently. And that's not to say he's like depressed in any sort of way. It's just that he's not happy. It's not necessarily that he feels sad in some way. Just that he's not particularly happy. And I wanted to change that over the course of the story, that he would like brighten up a little bit, and as he actually starts to become happy. Because yes, I want these characters to be happy, whether or not their happiness and the way they portray themselves everyone would agree with, but I want these characters to end up in some sort of happy ending. And I definitely want to not necessarily overhaul his design, but change it a bit so it's not so somber and sad. And I wanted to kind of do the opposite with Din. Not necessarily, oh, he looks happy now, but then he looks sad later or something like that. But with the way he presents himself, he's almost a little bit unapproachable. He's a really big guy, even if he's like 5'10", 5'11", kind of thing. To me, that's big because that's a foot taller than I am. But he's a big guy, and he's kind of closed off. He's got a lot of layers on top of him. He's kind of closed off from a lot of people, and I wanted to kind of strip that away as the story went on. See him as more of an approachable figure, as opposed to the guilt and shame that he feels in the beginning of the story, and I guess in a way that could be kind of defined as what the story is meant to be about. Creed and Din's story, The Altars, is kind of about like it is a romance story. It is my attempt to kind of explore people falling in love and stuff like that. But for Creed, his guilt and shame kind of comes out in a wave of sadness, I guess you could say, or emptiness, a feeling of being lonely, kind of thing. Din, on the other hand, when he feels his guilt or shame, it comes out in a bit of anger. And there's someone who's going to appear after Creed and Din appear. The first person who appears after them, by the way, remember that I said they're the only two characters in the story. So remember that. But one of the people who appears after Creed and Din is a guy that I refer to as Fallen. And Fallen does not like Din. Fallen has a big old beef with Din. Fallen wants nothing to do with Din. He does not like him. And that kind of creates some tension because before Fallen showed up, Din just had a normal form of like guilt and shame. But after Fallen shows up, Din's guilt and shame kind of reverts into anger because he feels like he's trying to do a lot to make amends for what happened. And I'm trying to be as vague as possible so I don't like ruin the whole story. I could talk for ages about this story because I love it. I love working on it. But Din and Creed kind of or Din at least, when Fallen shows up, he kind of some of his guilt and shame manifests in anger. And it's not scary anger in a sense. It's destructive anger, and it's more self-destructive anger. Because more angry he becomes at the oh wow, that was a stutter. The angrier he becomes at a situation, the more he kind of like represses those feelings, and the more he just wants to back up from the situation. And that's not a good thing because that leaves Creed high and dry. As you can tell, that they have some problems with each other. There are some butting heads between Creed and Din. When the story starts out, it is not a picture perfect romance. I could not say that. I don't know why I couldn't say that. This is another picture I wanted to bring up. Oops. Did not mean to do that. Okay. This is another picture I wanted to bring up when I was talking about the like how much I love height differences, even if it's not a romantic height difference. This is Cervena. Okay, I'm going from right to left, so shortest to tallest. This is Cervena Kovac, Louver Amore, and Alana Ash Marie. These three characters are from my story known as Tales Told, which is an original story based on fairy tales, because I love fairy tales. Servena, if you couldn't tell, is supposed to be Little Red Riding Hood. Louver is the beauty character in Beauty and the Beast, and Ash is Cinderella, because of course she is. Cinderella is my favorite fairy tale. I can't. I really like Little Red Riding Hood too, and Beauty and the Beast. I think one of the only fairy tales that I really don't like is Sleeping Beauty. And so it's very unlikely that you'll ever see like a Sleeping Beauty character from me. And it's not because I think there's anything wrong with the story. It's just I don't like it. It's just like it's not interesting to me. Um, and some adaptations of Beauty and the Beast just are boring to me. Like the whole like live action Disney Beauty and the Beast was boring. And the music was alright. The music was cool. But I always feel like if the best thing you can say about something is the music, it's probably not that good. Because a lot of times the music doesn't really get isn't controlled necessarily by the writers or directors. It's the composers and the musicians and them who's working on it and all that, and the singers and whatnot. It's not really always fully in the director or the writer's control. So it can kind of be put on its own little pedestal. But I love doing this. I wanted to do a thing because I wanted to emphasize, I guess, how short Cervena actually is. Um, she's actually as short as I am. I am also 4'11", so can relate. But I have taught kids who are taller than me. They were in elementary school, so middle schoolers, high schoolers being taller than me, I don't really care. Elementary schoolers being taller than me, that's something. One of the kids actually pointed out that they were taller than me, and I was gonna turn it into a lesson about genetics. But when one of the girls I was working with there kind of got everyone's attention before I could turn it into a lesson. Science lesson on the fly. Why am I so fucking short? Yeah, I wanted to do this one specifically. I was originally going to put Ko in Ash's place at the end there. Ko is the Beast character in my Beauty and the Beast story. But he is 8 foot tall because he's a giant. Giants in the story can go from 8 to 12 feet tall, and werewolves can go from 7 to 10 feet tall. So a fully grown werewolf can almost take down a fully grown giant. That makes sense if you read anything about the story that I've written so far. But it would have really dwarfed both Louver and Cervena. So I was like, why didn't I add Ash in there? Because Louver, the one in the middle, is a guy, and I wanted to add another girl who just happens to be taller than Serena in the bunch, and she's also taller than Louver. Louver is technically what you would call short for a guy. If you couldn't tell by the way my voice changed there, I'm using air quotes because I don't understand how 5'7" is short for a guy if like the average height for a man is 5'9", and even then some people still consider that short for a guy. Like what you want. You can like tall guys if you want to and want a guy over 6 foot or something. But there's no need to shame short guys for being short because they literally can't change it. Like one of my exes was I think 5'10" or 5'11", and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this information because I'm gonna come up to your waist because I am 4'11". It was a long distance relationship, so we never really met. But that would have been really funny if we were still together and we ended up meeting. I would have come up to his fucking waist. That would have been hilarious. It reminds me of there was this one time there was this guy on I think it was like one of the talent shows. I think it was like America's Got Talent. He was giant. He was like over 6 foot, like maybe like 6'9" or 7" or whatnot. I don't know. He was really tall and he was big. I think he was pretty muscular. And after he did his performance or whatever, I don't know if he sang or whatever, because they always sing. There's so many singing competitions, but you got to come to a variety talent show to be a singer. Why not? But if you can't tell, I'm a little salty, just a little bit. But oh dear, and that's fine. I don't need it. But one thing that was interesting to me was he motioned after his performance. He motioned for his wife to come over. I think it was either his wife or his girlfriend. It might have been his wife, but he motioned for his wife to come over, and she was tiny. Not only for like she was like average size for a woman, no, she was tiny. And I think he said something to the effect of, "I always wanted to come home to like my little wife or something like that," or like pointing out that she's very tiny. And I'm like, "Oh my god, that height difference is insane." What? Like the thing is, how do you talk to someone like that? If like you're always around them, but your height difference is so severe that you always have to be looking up at them? I have a lot of things like that I want to write. I just want to write them into characters so it makes sense with their storyline. Like Serena right there, like I don't know if you could tell from the way she looks, but she's a cannibal. If you've read like the quote unquote, not not legitimate, but if you've read like the original story of Little Red Riding Hood, part of the story is that she eats her grandmother. Like it sounds weird, but just go and read it. It's fine. But part of the story is that she actually eats part of her grandmother. And so I kind of took that and I took the weird implications that the original story had and I morphed it into her character, and she's kind of a cannibal now. But I wrote it into her story that she literally had no like way to get out of her situation, so she like was forced to resort to cannibalism. It's one of those got stuck in the mountains kind of thing, and then resorted to cannibalism to survive. I think there have been actual stories like that where people who were saved like from winter mountains or whatever, or like ice mountains or whatever, actually came home and then went to jail because they cannibalized one of their friends who had died before them. Which I don't know how to feel about that. But I didn't want to write a cannibal just to write a cannibal. Like I didn't want to write a cannibal so their whole purpose in life was that they were just a cannibal. So I wrote Savannah, who has very much a problem with monsters. She doesn't like monsters. That's kind of projection on her part, but whatever. Again, go read her story. It's over on my DeviantArt if you want to know more about her. Um, but Louver in the middle there, he's obviously a crossdresser, dresses like a woman. And I wrote that into his character. When he was very young, he was orphaned. Both of his parents died in a fire that consumed their home. And when he ran off to try and get help, he met some farmers at the base of the mountain that he was living on. And he kind of went from being a very rich kid to being broke as shit and without any family or friends. And that's not to say he was the richest rag story where they learn to appreciate things or whatever. He was a child. He was like 5. He was a tiny thing. He didn't have a richest to rag story. He was just a tiny thing. He didn't know how to be like he didn't understand being rich or being poor. He just understood that he liked life. But the woman who ended up taking pity on him and actually taking him in, um, what did I name her? I forget what I named her. I'll have to look it up. She's like a secondary background character, so I'm like not too worried that I forgot what I named her. But and I only wrote about her when I wrote Louver's story. I don't have an actual legitimate design for her yet. But back to Louver. Part of Louver's story was the woman who took him in was a farmer, and farmers in their world are very very poor. They don't have a lot of they don't make a lot of income, and when they do, it kind of all goes back into the farm kind of thing because they constantly need to be replenishing their stock. They make their own stock. So the only thing she had for him to wear was her hand-me-downs, clothes that she had worn before. And she did try to modify it in a way to make it a little bit more masculine, but after a while, she kind of just ended up giving him her old clothes. So that included blouses and skirts and dresses and stuff like that, or things you would typically find like a farmer working with. Uh, and nobody around the farm really commented on it or made Louver feel weird about it because they knew that was all she could do. They knew that's kind of all she had, so they didn't want to point it out in any way and make it seem weird because they knew like there was no other option at that point unless they wanted to ship the kid off somewhere else, which was not going to happen with those farmers. They felt too bad for him, and so when he left the farm, uh, he didn't realize that it was weird, and so when he left, he then realized that it was weird, and he was like, "Fuck it, I don't care." Like everyone else will point out, he was like, I don't give a shit. That's how I dress." You want to know another woman I enjoy working on? I'm gonna find her picture. I'm gonna have to delete all these pictures after the stream so I don't get bogged down with how many pictures I put up on my home stream. This is Mistress Mayfall, who is the main villain of the Tales Told series. I also want to point out this is not my design. This was a design I bought from an artist on DeviantArt known as Onimimi. Onimimi. So if you like this design, seriously go check them out. They have some great adopts, they have some great art. Go check them out, see what you like, buy something if you want to. But this is Mistress Mayfall. I love working on her. She's such an interesting character to me because a lot of characters that I've worked on who've been quote unquote villains is they don't necessarily like talk with their fists, but they fight. They're those characters who fight. That sounded stupid, but they are characters who will fight the good guys if they come near them. Mistress Mayfall is my first attempt at writing a non-fighting villain. Not necessarily that she likes the heroes in any way, so she decides not to attack them, but that she has underlings who attack them for her. The most famous right now are Mira and Myra, who are the twins uh, that fight alongside her, or they fight for her, essentially. They're like her right hand ladies. And I have a lot of girls in the story, I just realized. There's Servenna, there's Blank, there's Ash, there's Willow, there's Mira, Myra, Mr. Mayfall. I still have to design the Little Mermaid character, the Witch character, the daughter and mother character. I have a lot of girls. Yeah, I think that might be just because a lot of fairy tales have female leads. That's not a bad thing at all. I'm just saying, like, a lot of fairy tales that I've taken inspiration from have female leads. Like, this fairy tale that I've taken inspiration from for Mayfall was a fairy tale known as The Armless Maiden. I think there might be, like, I think it might go by a lot of different stories, but this one specifically is The Armless Maiden. And then Mira and Myra, I took inspiration from a story called The Twins. But I think in the original story, one was a boy and one was a girl. I think. And then the exact opposite with Beauty and the Beast. It's supposed to be one's a boy, one's a girl, and I just made them both boys instead of making them both girls. Um, Willow is Pinocchio, so I changed her to a girl. Did I swap any other genders? I don't think so. I think that's it. Yeah. Ash over there is a lizard person. She's specifically a salamander. And why I say specifically a salamander was because in old folk tales, a lot of people believed that salamanders were born from fire. Because when they would start a fire in their like fireplace, sometimes salamanders would come crawling out of the fire. And the reason for that actually was that salamanders would make their home in driftwood. And so when people would go out and get driftwood and they would throw it into the fire, the salamanders would wake up and they would run out of the fire. And so a lot of people started to believe that salamanders were born from fire and they had some sort of resistance to fire. And so part of like the lizard people and the salamanders' powers is fire. Specifically for Ash, she has kind of like a blue fire. Sky has a red fire. Ash has a blue fire. Um, Creed actually has a purple fire, which I'm very excited about doing. Vilui has pink fire, and Ken has blue fire also. If you don't know any of those characters' names, They're all on my DeviantArt. I don't have time to go into their stories right now. Oh, by the way, guys, if you are interested, I have a witch adoptable over on my DeviantArt. I believe the auction is going to close off in 2 days now, 2 or 1 day. I'll have to, I think it's going to close off on the 8th, so 2 days from now. And if you guys really want to go there and check it out, even if you're not going to buy it, if you're just going to go and check it out, or if you want to share it over on DA, then please. This was something that I made for by visibility day on DeviantArt last month. And of course, I was gonna make something for bi Visibility Day. If you guys don't know, I am bisexual, so it was like the only thing that made sense at that point. Um, so of course, I was gonna do something for it. And this is just what I did. It's pretty. I was gonna say it's pretty small. It's pretty small, but it is my 3 bisexual characters just hanging out, and they're all chibi because I really wanted to draw chibi for some reason. Um, the one on the left there is Knight. He is from the story of Stardust. Actually, I'm gonna pull up their character sheets as I talk about them. He's from the story of Stardust. He's one of the good guys. And he is actually an alien from another planet. And he's like, how old did I make him? Because the thing is, his people can live hundreds of years. So I made him older, but technically he's not that old when compared to like other people in his like tribe. So this is Knight. This is his character sheet. It's very similar to the old character sheet that I had for him because I actually the only thing I changed up was like the hat and the hues on his like green clothes and whatever. I just didn't really want him looking like Peter Pan. So I definitely had to change the hues on his coat and stuff. And I think oh, something got caught in my throat there. I actually think that I made like I tried to do like a gradient on his like over shawl thing. I don't know what to call that. The kind of like jacket cape thing that he's wearing. I don't know. I just design characters. I don't know what to call their outfits. But I think I had like a green to yellow gradient on there, and it was so garish to me. Like when I ended up redesigning him, I was like, "This is so." What was I thinking? But he's still got more muted greens and muted yellows. Uh, I like the yellow on him more now. Who's doing what over on my thing? So yeah, he's one of my bisexual characters. I need to write him more though. I just kind of realized I don't have a lot to say about him. I just need to write him more. I think the 3 characters in the hero side of the story that I need to write more are him, Sonar, and Sage. Who Sonar is kind of like a cyborg type person. And Sage, she's a human, but she's kind of like a sorceress kind of thing. So she's got like some mystical magical powers. Yeah, I definitely do think I need to write about them more, write more about their character development and stuff. Whoops, almost, almost clicked the wrong girl. I was talking about Sage and I was like, wait, no, I have to click on Ileana, who is the middle girl, the one in the middle in the pic, and this is her character ref. Ileana is one of the demons in the story. Not to say that she's like evil or anything. No, that's her species. She is a demon. Like there are angels and demons and stuff like that. She's a demon. You can tell by the tail that she has hidden under her dress. But she's one of the sisters of one of the main characters, younger sister, and I really enjoy kind of like creating conflict with her character. I know that sounds weird, but um, part of her conflict is her family life, with her father, her stepfather, her late father, and her mother, and her two brothers, her older brother and her young stepbrother, and a lot of it just has to do with, I think, not that she doesn't really understand the family dynamics, but that she kind of the family dynamics changed a bunch after they left home. And so she's kind of reeling back from that. She doesn't understand exactly what changed or why it had to change. Uh, and a lot of it is kind of her stumbling over, like, the change in her family, what it means for her, what it means for her relationships. And she's actually one of the characters, along with, I think, technically Sage and Sonar, that are not technically there in the hero team to fight for good. Sage and Sonar are actually there, quote unquote, to be protected because they have people who are out to get them, like evil people who are out to get them, and they need some kind of protection, and a lot of people just aren't willing to give them that kind of protection. For Ileana, she doesn't need protection. She's a strong enough force on her own, but the problem is she technically didn't come to the team to be a hero. She came to find her brothers, who her older brother, Shosuke, was the first to leave home, and then her younger brother followed him a little while after, and then she followed them because she felt like she didn't have a lot at home without her siblings because she has a very rocky relationship. They all have rocky relationships with both their parents, with their mother and their stepfather. So a lot of her like work that I've done with her has been the relationships and the family dynamic, both with her siblings and with her parents, and kind of exploring the idea of forgiveness as well as exploring the theme of change. So yeah, I clearly like writing her a lot, but it gets a little real. And then the one at the end there is, of course, we've talked about him a lot this live stream. That is Louver, and he is also he's a beauty character with Beauty and the Beast with Ko. He is bisexual also. Ooh, pumpkin cookies. I was looking at my Tumblr right now because I wonder if anybody had posted anything. And only the dessert gallery page posted anything. And is this a recipe for pumpkin cookies? I've never actually had anything that's like flavored with pumpkin unless it's in a pumpkin pie. And I always make it. I don't buy pumpkin pies. I make pumpkin pies. I do not buy them. They're always so watery when I buy them. But I always say that I want to make gingerbread cookies because I remember it was years and years and years ago that we got some store-bought gingerbread cookies, and I don't remember what they exactly were. Like, I don't exactly remember if they were gingerbread men or if they were just gingerbread cookies, but I remember they were gingerbread cookies, and I absolutely loved them. Like, the taste was, like, insane. I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever tasted. And then the second time that I bought gingerbread cookies, I think they were gingerbread men at that point. And I think it must have been like a completely different brand or a completely different type of cookie because I ate it and it tasted like straight up cardboard. And so I've now been a little bit desperate to like actually make gingerbread cookies so that I can actually taste them and see if it was like this mind-blowing experience like I remember it being. Because I always remember, like, I love the smell of like baking and stuff, and I love the smell of gingerbread cookies, especially around the holidays, but I never really remember eating any or making any. I just remember that one time that I ate a gingerbread cookie and I thought it was great. And I've never eaten one since, so I can't remember, I can't recall if it was actually like as good as I think. There are a lot of things with like Christmas and stuff that's a little weird for me. Especially, I am a Christmas baby. I was born on Christmas, which sucks. Okay, it doesn't suck that much, but it's not the greatest thing to be born on Christmas. It's not the greatest thing to be born on a holiday period. I think the greatest holiday to be born on might be Valentine's Day, just because you can get as much chocolate as you want. No, the greatest holiday to be born on is the day after Valentine's Day, the 15th, because then you can get all the chocolate you want at a discount. See, this is how I kind of do hair. If you can see, there's some lines in the piece that are like underneath the shading and the lighting of the hair. And I actually do that. I actually make the shape of the hair and then I add smaller lines inside to kind of define like the different strands of hair. People say not to do that, like some artists who give advice say not to do that. But I think it's more for people who kind of scribble in the lines, because all my lines, like, if you want to do lines inside of hair, which you can do, I like doing it and I think it comes out looking nice, at least for my standards. I don't know about your standards, but the lines you make should follow the position of the hair. If it's wavy, your lines should wave with the hair. If it's straight, your lines should be straight with the hair. And if it curls a bit, your lines need to follow the curls of the hair. And don't do little chicken scratches. Do full lines from one point of the hair to the other. Don't do little chicken scratches. Do full lines, and it'll come out looking a little bit cleaner. And for the love of God, I've done this before and it does not look great. Do not blur the lines in the hair. Some people I know do that, but if you're doing like those very small lines, like very short lines in the hair and then you blur it, it will make things look a bit messier. If you want things to look a little bit cleaner, do full lines with a not full density brush. I only know how to do that on Krita, so I don't really have a full advice to give on how to do that on other art programs. But don't do it on a full density brush. I usually put mine on 70 and make little lines. And make sure they follow the wave of the hair. And make sure they go from one point to another. Don't stop in the middle of the hair. And it'll make it look a lot cleaner. And you won't have to do a bunch of little lines and give your wrist a workout. Give your whole arm that workout. Because if you keep doing that with your wrist, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt so much. So that's a little tip of how I do my hair for you guys. That's how I like doing my hair. That's how I think it comes out nice. And I think it brings a lot of attention to it. But that's just me. However you want to do your hair, you can do your hair. I'm just saying, if you still want to do those lines in the hair, I would say make them a little bit cleaner. Because I've seen like a lot of artists who I actually really like their stuff, and they do that where they do smaller lines inside the hair, and they like stop in the middle of the hair. It can make things look messy. And when you're like so clean with your line art, or you're so clean with your coloring, and then you do that and it looks a little bit messy, it can throw off the composition of the piece. It's really interesting to watch artists as they evolve. I don't want to say grow, but as they evolve. Because you're not always constantly going in an upwards direction, but that doesn't mean you're going in a downwards direction either. You can scoot to another track, and you can completely change how you do certain things in favor of something else. And it's really easy, well, it's really interesting, I meant to say, to see how that changes with certain artists, especially when they do speed paints. Like, there's this one artist who I sort of follow them. Like, if I get recommended one of the new videos that they made, maybe I'll go and watch it, but I'm not really subscribed to them yet. Because I'm waiting for the full change. But one of the things I've noticed is that their shading has changed a lot. I still think they have some ways to go with the shading, but they've changed the shading a lot because what they used to do was they used to kind of like haphazardly throw airbrush everywhere. But now they're kind of making the airbrush smaller and they're putting it harder in certain areas and softer in others. I still think it looks a little bit messy. I still think full soft shading doesn't always work, and especially if you're kind of like rushing it a bit. But it is changing a lot, and the newer pieces have been coming out really interesting because you don't always have that issue with the shading kind of being all over the place. Because I think the main problem with shading being all over the place is not necessarily like, oh, where's the light source coming from? Sometimes when shading is all over the place, it can make the piece look a little bit muddy. Just a tad. Because, so especially when you're using the airbrush, and you're using like a very dark color, it can like muddy up some of the details that you're doing before you added the shading. So, my recommendation is usually to start out with self shading. If you want to go head first into soft shading and like more intricate types of shading, you can do that. It's very possible to just go head first and try to achieve something that not a lot of people can say they've ever achieved, like me. But if you want to go head first into that, I say go for it. I say look up a lot of advice online. There's so much advice online. You don't necessarily need to take a class on something because there's so much information online about every little thing you can think of. And you know, if you want to go headfirst into that, you definitely can. But my advice usually is always to stick to cell shading first, so you can get kind of the hard edges and then start adding soft shading when you feel a little bit more confident with it. When you want to add a little bit more dimension to your piece. And then combine them a little bit more and see how you want to change it up. Maybe do darker, maybe do a bit lighter, maybe change it up to this, to this, this, this. There was a video I watched recently, and I can't really remember the subject of the video or who was talking in it, but I do recall that they said something along the lines of when they were learning something, they never actually took a class for it. They always just looked it up on Google and said, how do you blank in blank kind of thing. And that's how they learned it. They just kept trial and error and looking up every little detail that they could think of. I think it might have been like a graphic artist or something like that. I don't really remember. It was like graphic designer. I don't know if graphic artist is technically a term that they use, but it was very interesting to me because I've done that a lot with my own art. When I don't really know how to approach something, I will look up how to blank. Like one of the things I usually have trouble with is shading dark hair, specifically black hair, because I don't just want to throw some like white shines on it because it makes it look a little weird and it makes it like just gray, and I'm like, I don't want gray hair, I want black hair. So I did that recently with one of my Goretober pieces. I'm not going to show it here, just in case no one really likes gore. I don't know why you're following me if you don't, but whatever. But I definitely prefer, I guess, looking stuff up and kind of learning it on the fly and like trying to incorporate different techniques and different things that I do. So don't ever be like ashamed to like look something up if you don't really understand how to approach it, or if you want to start approaching it in a different way. There are times when I've looked stuff up, not because I wanted to, I didn't know how to do it, but because I wanted to change how I approached it. Like when I changed how I did my hair from this, like what you see on the screen, to this, I did look it up and I followed some people's tutorials on how to change things up. And then I added my own little flair to it. And recently, I've actually been changing up how I draw eyes. And I don't know if you can see it here. Probably not. I probably have to do like a tutorial on like how I do eyes. and hair, so you can actually see how I do that. But if anyone ever wants to see that, but just for me personally, I've looked up a lot of that stuff, and I want to change how I do eyes recently, because I'm not happy with the way they look. They look a little messy, so I want to make them look a little bit cleaner. But I want to keep things that I already do, but I want to add on other things. By the way, if anyone out there knows how to get like YouTube's attention so I can delete one of my channels that they no longer allow me on, I would really love to know. Because YouTube doesn't even seem to have like an actual help desk. Like, they say it's like, no, you can't get help. And it's like emailing them. I don't know if emailing them is gonna do fucking shit. I've got like no fucking say in anything that goes on YouTube because I'm not a fucking huge creator. I'm not even a moderately big creator. I don't even have 100, not 100, like 500 subscribers or whatever. I don't even qualify for like a community tab thing or anything really. So I don't think it'll work to email them. But if you guys really have any advice at all, I mean seriously at all, about what I can do to get this channel taken down, because I don't want it anymore, but they won't allow me to be on the channel. They won't like allow me in it. I don't know why. Like I don't have my phone that I had when I made the channel, and I don't remember my password. And one of the things they suggest is that go to a computer that you've logged on before on this account, or go to like a physical location that you've logged into account, which number one, I can't do because the original computer we don't have anymore, and number two, I can't do because we moved when I graduated. We moved. Well, they moved. They moved when I moved to college. So it's like it's not something that can happen. So if you guys have any advice at all about how I should go forward in like trying to get this channel deleted, because I don't want it anymore. And I don't want it to be one of those things where it's like I've been gone for so long that someone might try and take it or like hack it or something. Because heaven knows if that happens, YouTube's even going to be more unwilling to help. So if you guys have any advice at all that you're able to give me, I would really appreciate hearing it. Just before I go to bed. I've talked a lot about my OCs. I think I'm gonna try to trim this down before I post it on YouTube. Just to trim it down. I don't know if I'll trim it down too much, or maybe I'll just try to get it like underneath an hour so it doesn't take forever to render like this other one that I'm doing. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you guys want to check that out when it's uploaded on my YouTube channel, you can do that. Or yeah, just yeah. And if you stop by, thank you for stopping by. If you guys want to see me do some Final Fantasy IX stuff, I have it archived on my YouTube channel. Or if you're up to seeing me work on some YCHs that I have that I'm going to be doing soon. I will preface this by saying they are gore YCHs, so a lot of blood and guts and stuff like that. If you're not into that, I do not want you to follow me because I do a lot of that stuff. You can see from my avatar that I have, or my profile picture, I do a lot of that stuff. So if you're not into that, I really would not suggest following me because it's very, yeah. So, but thank you guys for sticking by, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye!